Ah, and there you are. Welcome to an all-new Killer Kitchen. Tonight is the countdown to Halloween. Only 4 weeks. And I thought, why don't we see what kind of trouble we can't find ourselves this year? So, you may be wondering why I am presenting you Tarantula, Empire of the Ants, and The Deadly Mantis. Because they're classics, and some of my favorite movies. You know, we've shown you about 2 years ago, The House on Haunted Hill. And unfortunately, that episode did become a disaster. So I thought, why not bring the disaster right back? And, I do hope that you've made yourselves comfortable, because we have one hell of a show to give. That's better. We'll see you in just a minute.
You are a bold and courageous person, afraid of nothing.
Charlie the horse was none too spry. His rider, Joe, was really dry. When low beneath the burning sky, they heard the famous Valentine cry.
Valentine, Valentine. Hey, get your cobia. Hey, get your Valentine. Hey, get your cold beer. Get your ice cold Valentine beer. When you want the flavor in beer today, you ask the man for Valentine beer. It's got the liveliest taste in town. Valentine's got it. Valentine beer.
You know, folks, if you're like me, you like your beer tall, frosty cold, and just brimming over with lip-smacking, honest-to-goodness flavor. That's Valentine beer for you. Flavors brewed in for the liveliest taste in town. Enjoy refreshing Valentine beer. You'll be so glad you did.
Friends, this is National Tavern Month, celebrating 300 years of friendly hospitality. A grand time to drop into your neighborhood tavern. Yes, stop in and you ask the man for Valentine beer, the liveliest taste in town, at the friendliest place in town, your favorite tavern.
Lucky Strike. First again with Tobacco Men. First again with Tobacco Men.
LSMFT, LSMFT. Lucky Strike means fine tobacco.
Yes, in a cigarette, it's the tobacco that counts. And Lucky Strike means fine tobacco.
So round, so firm, so fully packed, so free and easy on the draw.
So for your own real deep down smoking enjoyment, smoke that smoke of fine tobacco, Lucky Strike.
I'm your host, Vincent Victorian, to take you through the darkest realms of your oven and to see what fires truly do cook. down inside. As we begin tonight's journey, I'd like to introduce you to something a little bit different. We've made pizzas, we've made mini pizzas, we've done all kinds of weird shit with pizza. In fact, we're probably going to try some more weird shit with pizza as time rolls. So tonight, we're going to be making pizza cups. And we happen to have all of that right here in front of us. So what you will need, take a look right here. You will need 2 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, 1 teaspoon of seasonings of your choice. For this batch, you'll probably need 2 if you're only using 1. We are actually going to be using that packaged taco seasoning. And we're going to mix that with some regular average Italian seasoning, giving this a very unique blend in and of itself. On top of that, you will also need tomato sauce and or pizza sauce. We have our pre-packaged and pre-made pizza sauce ready to go. You will also need shredded cheese of your choice. And finally, your toppings, whether it be pepperoni or sausage or just any number of things, because many of us like many different things. However, for those of you out there who like sardines, I commend you. Anybody that can eat those salty fish and walk away, right on, brother, because I wouldn't touch it. Tried it once, never again. So, on our next break, we will start putting together our crust and molding them into our cups. Now, tonight's feature is actually directed by William Castle. Now, William Castle's done so many great things, I couldn't even begin to start. I mean, Homicide in 1961, Rosemary's Baby in 1968. He was responsible for 13 Ghosts. And, in fact, the man was quite a brilliant salesman, even of and in itself. This man came up with ideas. In fact, for the Tingler, it was his idea to put vibrations into the seats in the theater. So, at one point in the movie, Vincent Price would come out and right up on your screen and he'd say, "Oh my God, watch out. The Tingler's loose in your theater tonight." And just every so often, different chairs would buzz throughout the fucking movie. And the only way to kill the Tingler, if any of you have seen this, you know, the only way to kill that Tingler is to scream as loud as you can. Otherwise, well, my friends, you will be joining me down in the depths. But yes, William Castle was great for these kind of gimmicks. In fact, in tonight's feature, he was responsible. There would be a point in the climax of the film, and I don't want to spoil it yet, so we will get into that later. But he is responsible for actually giving everybody in the theater a unique scare all its own on this feature as well. And we will discuss that later. The writer, Rob White, this man, he's up there with Larry Cohen as far as his ability. This guy has some serious talent. Savages in, I think it was like, what was that, 1974? He was responsible for writing 13 Ghosts in 1960. The guy is just, he knows his way around the printed word. And as somebody who used to dabble with poetry and a few things of my nature, let's say that I have nothing but respect for his abilities. I suggest, actually, for those of you curious, go look up Savages. Very, very interesting film. And it may not stand up to your modern audiences, but for its time, this thing was, and still is in my opinion, a masterpiece. It stars, first of all, I'd like to introduce you to our narrator, so to speak. Elijah Cook, who most of you know from all these gangster films, and he was always kind of that small stature, but standing like a mountain. Like, he was smaller than me, and yet in his heyday, I wouldn't, even actor or not, I would never have fucked with this guy seeing some of his roles. But then he was great at kind of playing the mousy characters, and he played them with such dignity and charisma that, yeah, he's that mousy guy, but he's also, that he means business when he's speaking. He does it with a technique that I've almost never seen since. He plays Mr. Watson Pritchard, who owns the house that we will be visiting this evening. This is the house on Haunted Hill. Now, tonight we are going to just completely ignore the 1999 remake. It was a good movie, and for a remake, honestly, it's probably the first and only one I've ever seen that was done with class and style. Totally retold, but they stayed true to the source material, and I will always respect that. You know, alter things all you want. That's the greatest thing about being an artist. We can do what we want, but you have to give it class. You must respect its predecessor, whatever you're doing. I'm sure Disney can tell you all about what it costs when you don't want to stick with the source material. But, the clock is ticking, and we only have a short time to get to the house on Haunted Hill. And I'm sure if you can find it, well, Miss DeLorean might make an exception for one extra guest. You're watching Killer Kitchen, and we will see you right here after this.
The ghosts are moving tonight, restless, hungry. May I introduce myself? I'm Watson Pritchard. In just a minute, I'll show you the only really haunted house in the world. Since it was built a century ago, 7 people, including my brother, have been murdered in it. Since then, I've owned the house. I've only spent one night there, and when they found me in the morning, I was almost dead.
I'm Frederick Lauren, and I've rented the house on Haunted Hill tonight so that my wife can give a party. A haunted house party. She's so amusing. There'll be food and drink and ghosts, and perhaps even a few murders. You're all invited. If any of you will spend the next 12 hours in this house, I'll give you each $10,000, or your next of kin in case you don't survive. But here come our other guests. It was my wife's idea to have our guests come in funeral cars. She's so amusing. Her sense of humor is, shall we say, original. I dreamed up the hearse. It's empty now, but after a night in the house on Haunted Hill, who knows? This is Lance Schroeder, a test pilot, so no doubt a brave man. But don't you think you can be much braver if you're paid for it? And I happen to know that Lance needs the $10,000 I'll give him, if he's brave enough to stay all night. This is Ruth Bridges. You've no doubt read her column in the newspapers. She says her reason for coming to the party is to write a feature article on ghosts. She's also desperate for money. Gambles. You've already met Watson Pritchard, a man living in mortal fear of a house, and yet he is risking his life to spend another night here. I wonder why. He says for money. This is Dr. David Trent, a psychiatrist. He claims that my ghost will help his work on hysteria. But don't you see a little touch of greed there around the mouth and eyes? This is Nora Manning. I picked her from the thousands of people who work for me because she needed the 10,000 more than most. Supports her whole family. Isn't she pretty? The party's starting now, and you have until midnight to find the house on Haunted Hill.
Do you know why delicious hot Quaker Oats is so good for so many families? Quaker Oats is rich in protein. A breakfast of delicious Quaker Oats with milk and sugar for a family of 4 provides as much total protein as 6 average eggs, as much total protein as 18 pieces of toast, and almost as much total protein as 18 strips of bacon. That's why your family gets that wonderful stick-to-the-ribs feeling with Quaker Oats, that wonderful feeling of well-being.
And what hot breakfast is as easy and fast to prepare as Quaker Oats? Just pour it into boiling salted water, and you have creamy, smooth, delicious oatmeal with only 1 minute of actual cooking. And here's a tip. Before and after serving Quaker Oats, keep the pan tightly covered, and it rinses clean instantly. No scouring, no bother.
So be sure your whole family gets the protein they need with a delicious hot breakfast of high-protein Quaker Oats or Mother's Oats, the same high-protein oatmeal.
I'm Flora the Florida orange, and I'm loaded with vitamin C. There's more health in a Florida orange. That's why everybody needs a lot of little. Oh, me. There's more juice in a Florida orange. Each day drink at least this much or more from the sweet, luscious Florida orange. Buy 'em now at your favorite store.
Right. There's a reason for squeezing fresh Florida oranges. Sweeter and more delicious, they give you extra juice, extra flavor, more for your money. And they're extra rich in vitamin C. That's why fresh Florida orange juice is better for them anytime they're thirsty. And nothing else tastes as good as the pure, delicious juice of fresh Florida oranges. By the bag or by the dozen, they're today's best fruit buy.
Buy 'em now at your favorite store. I'll be vitamin C in you.
It's time to get cooking. Speaking of cooking, as we return to tonight's episode, I'd like you to pay careful attention to Mr. Pritchard's introduction to the history of the house on Haunted Hill. And maybe you'll see that greed will definitely play a part in any decision that we make. Which is why, instead of focusing on what we can put into our pockets, we should be focusing on what we can do to make our situations brighter. And you know, you got the introduction to our characters. I'd like you to know a little something about tonight's cast. Now, obviously, everybody knows Michael Jackson's fucking Thriller and Vincent Price's special cameo. I will tell you, I hate Michael Jackson. I hate his fucking music. But Thriller and Bad were really cool records, and you really can't knock those two records. Whether you want to knock him, whether you want to knock the Jackson 5, whether you want to say whatever about whoever, those two records, nobody can really knock. They really were staples in our culture. So, knowing that Vincent Price, all these years later, had a huge piece in our modern culture, that right there is what puts him in the legend status. But where are my manners? You see, Vincent Price, everybody knows about. Everybody knows his work. But we should actually introduce you to the main cast, not just the host. Now, Richard Long, who plays Lance. Where do I begin? He's been in so many different things and so many different styles of entertainment. But what I will always remember him for is 1962's The Twilight Zone, Person or Persons Unknown, where literally just the whole story from beginning to end will grab you, hold you, and make you even second guess how well you think you know your family. He was also in a 1964 episode of The Twilight Zone. And there he played in, Number 12 looks just like you. And if you look around and pay attention to our society, that episode is very, very similar to what I believe may be coming to our future, as long as we allow loudmouths and outsiders to control how we dictate our government and run our society. He's also been in things, you know what, I could go all day on Lance, so we're going to let Mr. Richard Long lie. And next up, we were introduced to Julie Mitchum, who plays Ruth Bridges. Now, seeing this and watching this the several times that I've seen it, I never realized that she was actually in Killer Dill in 1947. Very, very cool flick. If you guys get the chance, try to look that up. Even if you gotta get the fucking Turner Classic Movies to get a hold of it, classic, classic, classic. It's got almost everything you would want from a murder mystery, and it's done with a class and a style all its own. Separated from anything that's been made since 1964. So that's a really cool one. But what I found particularly interesting was as we were watching tonight's feature last week, I kept thinking she looked really familiar and I just couldn't place it. Well, this past Easter, I watched 1956's The Ten Commandments, as I like to do most Easter. And it never occurred to me that this woman is the same one from The Ten Commandments. So if you guys ever check that out, or Easter may be coming up, here in the next year, come next Easter, look that one up and keep a lookout for Ruth Bridges. So before I go any further, we really need to get this dough doughy. So I preheated the oven to 425, and in a large bowl, I'm going to take 2 cups of flour. Got my cup. And what we're going to do is just level across the top. 2 of those. There we go. Now, set this aside for just a minute because we're going to need that flour again. Secondly, we want to take our baking powder. So our baking powder, 2 teaspoons. Well, I happen to have that right on hand. I said 2, didn't I? I hope I did, because you need 2. There you go. So there's our baking powder. And we're going to finally add 1 teaspoon of regular, average, everyday table salt. Now, people like different kinds of salt. The truth is, you can use the fresh salt, you can use the sea salt, but if you use the sea salt, I would probably cut down to 1/3 of a teaspoon. I probably wouldn't use the full teaspoon because it does have a different texture, and it just fucks up the recipe. This whole, it might be healthier. Well, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but after watching the Olympics, and after seeing everything that's been happening since fucking July, quite frankly, I ain't trying to live forever. I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna eat my fatty foods, I'm gonna drink my fucking beer, and I'm gonna smoke my Montegos. Let the world be as it's gonna be. I'm just gonna try to stay the fuck out the way, because that is the best place for me to be. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add water and vegetable oil. So, we need, how much water? Let's see, I've got it written down right here. Shit. Oh, there we go. I think I sort of lost track of time there. Thank you for passing the time with me. Not really sure what happened there. We had it written down right here. We're going to use 3/4 cup of water, and we're going to use 1/4 cup vegetable oil instead of the olive oil. So, what is it? I said 3/4? Well, that's 3 of these little red motherfuckers. There, we got 3/4 ready to go. Finally, 1/4 cup vegetable oil, which I got right here. Oop, turn that off. And pour it in. Now, toppings are basically open. You're going to need cheese. You're going to need your pizza sauce. You're going to need your seasoning. As far as your meats or vegetables or different cheeses, I definitely recommend using mozzarella. We have that in the fridge waiting to come out when we are at that point. We are doing pepperoni, and you can do bacon, you can do sausage, you can do peppers. The thing is to layer it in even. So once I fix this all up, I'm going to be kneading it for a good minute while you guys continue with tonight's presentation. So what I'm going to do, okay? I am going to mix this all up, stir it until it kind of comes together in a nice doughy, something about like this. Now, if it's too sticky, you can add some extra flour. If it's too floury, you can add a little extra water. Just be cautious and watch. It's really a trial and error sort of gig. But it's not super complicated. If anything, I'd say it's more of a hassle because it creates a mess that nobody wants to fucking clean, especially when you're like me having a couple of beers and you just want to snack. Sometimes that mess may just be worth it. After all, you can't have a good barbecue without cracking a few skulls. Just ask the cook back in 1974. But I digress. So, I got this going. What I'm going to do, I'm going to close this motherfucker up, get it out of my way. And as we said, we were going to need, that hurt, our flour again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, I'm just going to add, sprinkle it right along my surface. Now, when you're going to do this on a plain surface and you don't want to use the parchment paper or just don't have any on hand, we do have wax paper. I pulled it out. But, you know, for me, that wax paper, it gets sticky, it gets in the fucking way. Better off doing like this. Patting it out, getting it on your surface. Any surface, though, like this, if you're going to do it like this, I like to use Ajax. I'm not being paid. They're not my sponsor. They are not responsible for anything I say out of my mouth this evening. However, the antibacterial Ajax Ultra is the best soap in the fucking world, and I use it on damn near everything in the kitchen. So I hit a sponge, I put some down, I'm going to clean this up really well. And that will eliminate any chance of bacteria that might have been left over from just a normal soap and water wash. So what I'm going to do is now I'll take our dough. I'm going to kind of squish it in together. Now I'm going to throw it on here, just like this, and I'm just going to knead it in. Getting it going sort of like this. And this is why you need the flour. Now, actually, I probably used a little too much flour in what I'm doing, but I like to be safe. You know, I'm not looking for any extra hassle. And anything extra, what's cool, you got a garbage can at home, just put the lid up, the lip of it up against your surface, sweep it on in, maybe take an extra 3 seconds to fucking wet a rag and come through and wipe it. Easy cleanup, no big deal. So it's better to use too much than have too little when you're doing your kneading, because you never really know what you're going to run into or how your dough is going to turn out. You know, it literally is touch or go. Now me, I have a little more experience because, well, we're always here in the kitchen and I'm always coming up with something new to bring you guys at home. And those of you who happen to be misfortunate enough to stumble upon our domicile. But I'm going to continue kneading this in, and when we come back, I will have this mess cleaned up, and we will show you how to cut these out and mold them to our pan, and even how to treat the pan so that it's an easy come across and it's out. So we will see you after this. Now, you know, one interesting thing I wanted to point out is when you're doing this, if you do it just the right way, you don't even need a rolling pin. You can make it happen just by being careful. Something like this. But of course, even at that point, if you do your dough right, it's not super sticky. What you need is a can of Pam. Not Cam Pam. She stays here at the kitchen with me. A can of Pam. Something like this. It'll just roll out. Give you a nice little mold. In fact, you get slick enough and a high enough ceiling, you can learn to start flipping it just like they see in those movies in New York. Anyway, that's enough from me. You're watching Killer Kitchen, and we are watching The House on Haunted Hill. Ah, but I think the party's starting. What is that?
Well, where is everybody?
It isn't a very warm welcome, is it?
Only the ghosts in this house are glad we're here.
Are we all strangers to each other? Don't you two know each other?
I'm afraid I don't even know your name.
I'm Nora Manning.
Lance Schroeder.
Is Frederick Lauren a friend of yours?
I've heard of him, but I've never met him.
I work for one of his companies, but I've never seen him.
I've never met the man either. Just a phone call. Do you know him?
No,
Well, then you're the only one of us who does.
I don't know him. All the details about renting the house were done by mail.
He's quite wealthy, isn't he?
Millions.
And 5 wives, I believe.
4, I think, so far.
A $50,000 party for only 5 people is a little steep, even for a millionaire.
Well, if I were going to haunt anybody, this would certainly be the house I'd do it in.
Who closed the door?
This thing's made of solid steel.
Annabelle. Our guests are here, unfortunately still alive. Is your face on yet?
Dust and dirt everywhere, and the water barely trickles. Couldn't you have had the place cleaned?
Atmosphere, darling. You know how ghosts are. They never tidy up. And that's a very fetching outfit, but hardly suitable for a party.
I'm not going to the party.
The spend-the-night ghost party was your idea, remember? Since it's going to cost me $50,000, I want you to have fun.
The party was my idea until you invited all the guests. Why all these strangers? Why none of our friends?
Friends? Do we have any friends?
No, your jealousy took care of that.
I had a reason for inviting each guest. I wanted kind of a cross-section. From psychiatrist to typist, and from drunk to jet pilot. They share one thing. They all need money. Now let's see if they're brave enough to earn it.
And you call this a party?
Could be.
Why do you always do that? It spoils the champagne.
It might explode.
Never does.
Would you guarantee that?
That isn't funny, Frederick.
Make a good headline. Playboy kills wife with champagne cork. Will you join me?
No, thank you.
Just a sip might improve your humor.
My humor is fine, thanks. And I haven't poisoned it.
It's always good to know that. Have some. You'll enjoy the party more. Go on.
Your trust is so touching. And I'm not going to the party.
Of all my wives, you're the least agreeable.
But still alive.
Would you go away for $1 million tax-free? You want it all, don't you?
I deserve it all. Your jealousy isn't tax-free, and your possessiveness is maddening.
If ever a man had grounds for divorce,
But can't prove them.
the time will come. You'll slip up one of these days,
Think so?
if I live long enough. You remember the fun we had when you poisoned me?
Something you ate, the doctor said.
Yes, arsenic on the rocks. Annabelle, you'd do it again if you thought you could get away with it, wouldn't you?
Darling, what makes you think that?
Something about you. I hear that hanging is very uncomfortable, in case you get any more ideas. Now, don't let the ghosts and the ghouls disturb you, darling.
Darling, the only ghoul in the house is you.
And don't sit up all night thinking of ways to get rid of me. It makes wrinkles.
This is what she used on my brother and her sister. Hacked them to pieces. We found parts of the bodies all over the house, in places you wouldn't think. The funny thing is the heads have never been found. Hands and feet and things like that. But no heads.
The wife, probably in a rage, threatened her husband with a knife and then, carried away by hysteria, took a swing at him and simply went on from there.
Well, she certainly went on. How many people did she kill, Mr. Pritchard?
Only two. Her husband and her sister. No one else was here.
So there are two loose heads just floating around in here somewhere?
You can hear them at night. They whisper to each other and then cry.
Since our host isn't here, would anyone care to mix me a drink?
Certainly. What will you have?
Good evening. I'm your host, Frederick Lauren. Since we're all strangers to each other, let's get acquainted with a drink, shall we?
Mr. Lauren, I advise you to call this party off now. The ghosts are already moving, and that's a bad sign.
Let me apologize for my wife. She'll join us later. What do you have?
Scotch and.
Doctor?
I'll have the same.
Now, before the party begins, let's go over the details. The caretakers will leave at midnight, locking us in here until they come back in the morning. Once the door is locked, there's no way out. The windows have bars that a jail would be proud of, and the only door to the outside locks like a vault. There's no electricity, no phone, no one within miles, so no way to call for help.
Like a coffin.
So if any of you decide not to stay for the party, you must let me know before midnight. Of course, if you leave, I shan't be able to pay you anything.
I'm interested in your reasons for this, party. Aside from the pleasant company.
Ghosts, Doctor. I think everyone wonders what they would do if they saw a ghost. And now my wife has given us all the opportunity to find out.
Amusing. Ghosts, etc., being only creations of hysteria, your party should be a success.
Well, Pritchard here promises us genuine ghosts.
7 now. Maybe more before morning.
That's cheerful.
4 men have been murdered in this house. And 3 women.
You planned your party very well, Mr. Lauren. 4 of us are men, 3 are women. Well, a ghost for everybody.
Well, Pritchard, why don't you take us on a tour through the house and let's see what happens, huh?
See that stain? Blood. A young girl was killed here. And whatever got her wasn't human. Don't stand there.
What do you mean? Where?
It's too late. They've marked you.
Ridiculous. The roof probably leaks.
Oh, that must be what it is. Who would want to haunt me?
I would say any self-respecting male ghost.
I hope it doesn't come back.
Well, Mr. Pritchard, you're the life of the party.
He hasn't even started yet. Wasn't there a man who threw his wife into a wine vat or something?
That was in the cellar. There's been a murder almost every place in this house. All this belonged to a Mr. Norton, who didn't die here. He was electrocuted later. Mr. Norton did a good deal of experimenting with wines, but his wife didn't think it was any good. So he filled the vat with acid and threw her in. She was supposed to stay down, but the bones came up. It's a funny thing, but none of the murders here were just ordinary. Just shooting or stabbing. They've all been sort of wild, violent, and different. Look out! God, she didn't fall in.
You mean there's still acid in there?
Destroys everything with hair and flesh. Just leaves the bones.
All right. So now we've got this about the right consistency. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to tear off a chunk just about the size of a ping pong ball, maybe a little bit bigger depending. This time around I'm going to go a little bit bigger. The reason I'm going to go bigger is for no other reason than I want to make sure that we have enough dough to do what we're doing here. Now, to get my size just right, that fits down into your cupcake or your muffin holder thingy. So we're going to flatten this out, and we're going to place it on top of here. Like that. And there we go. Again, if you're having a hard time or if it's just being difficult, easily just roll it out. And if you made it too large and you just don't want to have that excess, just trim around. That back in here. Take this guy aside. Now to treat your pan is fairly simple. In fact, that's why we have the can of Pam out. Just like that. And you also use oils or whatever. I like the pan because it's a little less mess-free and I don't have to dig out my freaking brush. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do that 6 more times. And we are just going to put it inside of here, just like that. And you just want to mold it flush up against your like that. Now, mold this out because you're going to want those edges, and I'll show you why in just a second. So make sure it's thick enough so that it does hold your ingredients. Now, first thing we're going to do, take a spoon and add just a little sauce. Here, get a good look at what I'm doing here. A little sauce down at the bottom. Now what I'm going to do, add some cheese. Bits. A little more sauce, not much. You don't even want half as much as what you did on the bottom. Just a little bit in between. Add a bit more cheese. Let's go with, I don't know. I say we'll take 3 pieces of pepperoni here. What we're going to do, I'm going to take that pepperoni, I'm going to slice it down the middle. We're just going to place it in here. Right at the bottom, just like so. Add a little bit more cheese. And we're going to do another layer of pepperoni, same way. Just want to overlap them. Now, before we add another layer of cheese, we're going to add some bacon bits in here right on top of the pepperoni. And now we're going to add a little. Now we're going to take these, squish them up like that, and that extra layer that you cut off, squish that down, and if you want to be a smart ass, because I'm good at being a smart ass, spray the fucker. Remember, sink works, so you can always wash your hands when you're done. Hold that down into your squished. What I'm going to do is at the tip of this one, I'm going to take and make like a little bowl, so to speak. Bring it up on all the edges. Now, I'll take a little more sauce right on top of that. Just like that. A little cheese, or a lot of cheese, fuck it. And a few more bacon bits. We're going to take this, we're going to stick that, all 6 of them when they're made, into the oven, and we're going to bake them between 12 and 15 minutes, or, depending on your oven at home, until the crust is a golden brown and the cheese is cooked and melted to almost a bubbling, like Freddy Krueger's face. So, with no further ado, I'm going to get back to work. I got 5 more of these motherfuckers to make. And we will see you guys on our next break, right here on Killer Kitchen. I think I hear something. Yes, that's the party going on without us.
My, it's dry and dusty down here.
Well, there's a cure for that upstairs. Come on.
you get invited to this party? No. Oh, go on. I mean, what did he tell you?
Mr. Lawrence said everybody'd get $10,000.
But he didn't say anything about being locked in.
No.
He just made the deal with me on the phone, but nothing about having to stay.
Aren't you going to stay?
If I don't, I lose $10,000.
I'm going to stay too. $10,000.
Yeah. You believe in ghosts?
I don't know.
Well, I agree with what that doc says. You can spook yourself. I've done it in planes. Seen things that weren't really there. Or were they? What are you going to do with your $10,000? If we get it.
What do you mean, if we get it? Won't he pay us if we stay?
Ah, sure he will. 10,000 is no more to him than a nickel is to us.
We were in an automobile accident. Now I'm the only one in the family who can make any money.
Boy, I've never seen so many doors. Closet? Bottles.
Does it go anywhere? Lance! Lance!
Please, come on. Did she say Lance is gone? Gone where?
We'll have to break it down. It's locked.
Locked? Nothing that money won't cure. I must have bumped my head.
The only way you could bump your head in here is to run head on into the wall. You didn't do that, did you? Let's get a bandage on that.
I wonder why they didn't kill him.
Who?
He didn't bump his head. They hit him.
They?
Nora, when you came in, you said something about a ghost.
There was something.
What did it look like?
Well, it was wearing a black thing that went all the way to the floor.
Weren't you a little frightened at the time?
Well, yes.
That, Mr. Loren, is hysteria.
Well, then, Doctor, how do you explain what happened to Lance? Was that hysteria, too?
You better get that checked in a day or so.
Thanks, Doc. Wait for me in the hall.
The ghosts are coming closer, Mr. Loren.
You really believe in your pet ghost, don't you, Pritchard?
Before the night's over, you will, too.
Would you like a drink, Lance?
No, thanks.
I'd like one. Scotch and. Mr. Loren, are you really going to pay anyone who stays all night?
Certainly. $10,000.
Will there be much red tape or delay?
You in a hurry, dear?
Frankly, yes. Or frantically.
There you are, my dear.
Someone or something was in here when I came in. But where? And if the door was locked, how did it get out? What you saw might have been a ghost, Nora, but what was in here with me was no ghost.
I don't know. I was so scared.
Does it sound different to you?
Yes.
Three, 6, 9, 12. 12 feet. Three, 6. Now, I'm going to knock on the other wall. When you hear me, you knock on this wall. Tap lower down. Where'd it come from?
From in here.
What if it ran out of here? I'd have seen it.
Lance, it doesn't run. It just floats.
Yeah, but why didn't I see it?
You don't believe me.
How can I?
I'm Annabelle Loren. You must be Miss Manning. I realize this is a very unusual and I'm afraid very dull party. Wouldn't you like to freshen up? This is your room. Depressing, isn't it?
I doubt if I'll spend much time here.
It's going to rain. Perfect atmosphere for my husband's party. Why did you come here?
He said he'd give me $10,000.
Why did he pick you?
I don't know. My supervisor just came and said I'd been invited.
How long have you known my husband?
I just met him tonight.
So? Why you? What were you doing wandering around by yourself?
Well, I was in the cellar with Lance, Mr. Schroeder, and I just left, that's all.
Don't do it again. Don't go anywhere in this house by yourself. Now fix your face and I'll come by for you in a few minutes.
But
You're in danger. We all are.
But who?
I hope for your sake you never find out. I'm Annabelle Lauren. Were you looking for something?
Not exactly.
Are you the doctor?
No, I'm Lance Schroeder.
The pilot. You've hurt yourself.
Oh, it's just a bump on the head. Which is my room?
I believe this is it.
Thank you, Mrs. Lauren.
Annabelle Lance. You were with the young girl in the cellar. Why was she so upset?
Was she?
And you don't look like the type to go around bumping his head. What really happened, Lance?
Well, Nora thought she saw a ghost, but I didn't see anything.
She was just frightened then.
And mad at me, I think. I kidded her about it.
I wouldn't joke about anything else that happens here tonight.
Now, don't tell me you're taking all this seriously.
Aren't you?
Well, I'd like to find out what hit me.
Lance. If I need help, may I count on you?
Sure, I guess so. Look, what's going on here anyway? I mean, what is with this party bit?
This is no party. He's planning something.
Your husband?
I wish I knew what it was.
Must be pretty big if he's going to lay out $50,000.
The money doesn't mean anything. He has a reason for getting us all up here to this dreadful old house.
Well, what for? He doesn't even know us.
Maybe that's exactly why you're here.
Well, what can he get away with?
Oh, he thinks that big money like his can get away with anything. You know, of course, that I'm his fourth wife. The first simply disappeared. The other two died. Lance, I don't want to join them.
You mean he,
Oh, his doctor said they died of heart attacks. 2 girls in their 20s.
Well, what can he do?
My husband is sometimes insane with jealousy. Nothing matters to him then. Please be careful.
Would he hurt you?
He would kill me if he could.
My name is Sandy Maxwell. My recitation is entitled Why I Like 5 Flavor Lifesavers. 5 flavor lifesavers come in 5 flavors. The yellow ones are lemon, the green ones are lime, the red ones are cherry, the orange ones are orange. There's also pineapple, which is yellow like lemon. It may surprise you if you're all set to taste pineapple and get lemon. 5 flavor lifesavers are called the candy with the holes. I like to look through them. They're especially good if you have only 5 cents. People should buy 5 flavor lifesavers. I asked my mommy to buy them at the supermarket. She said they slip through the basket. I told her to buy a box, and that wouldn't happen. It didn't. The box is almost empty, 'cause Daddy likes them too. The end.
For double enjoyment, reach for Beechnut Peppermint Gum. It sparkles your smile, your breath, your whole sense of enjoyment. Beechnut Peppermint in the familiar yellow pack.
It's chilly outdoors, but inside. For generations, frosty mornings have seemed warmer with stacks of
Aunt Jemima buckwheats.
Right, Aunt Jemima buckwheats, deep golden brown with a tantalizing buckwheat tang. It's the same today. Men still need a hearty, nourishing breakfast.
And men love Aunt Jemima buckwheats.
No buckwheats can equal that famous Aunt Jemima flavor.
And they're so easy, easy, easy.
Just pour out Aunt Jemima buckwheat mix from the yellow box. Then add milk. Serve with crisp brown pork sausage or with ham or bacon. Lots of lucky men can have Aunt Jemima buckwheats tomorrow if they only ask for them.
Men, ask for Aunt Jemima buckwheat pancakes. My, they're good.
This portion of our show brought to you by Jell-O Instant Pudding. That quick, good, busy day dessert. Now.
Oh. So you guys are hiding on me, huh? Well, you're watching Killer Kitchen, and this is House on Haunted Hill. We'll see you right here on the next break, when those pizzas should be pretty damn close to done. Stick around and we'll see you then.
Annabelle, you're missing all the fun. Nora Manning was almost killed by a falling chandelier. The pilot bashed his head in.
Is he badly hurt?
The Saturnine psychiatrist bandaged him up. Don't you want to go and console him, as you do most men, in your fashion?
You're so clever, Frederick.
Yes, I lie awake nights wondering why I married you. It was rather a mistake.
You didn't marry me, dear. I married you. Unpleasant, but no mistake.
Hurry up.
Frederick, for the last time, I'm not going to your party.
And for the last time, it's not my party, but yours. And you are going.
I am not.
You ready, dear?
No.
Are you ready, dear?
Yes, damn you.
Would you adore me as much if I were poor? No. All you want to be is a lovely widow. It's almost time to lock up the house. And then your party will really begin. I wonder how it'll end. It's close to midnight, Lance.
Okay. I'll be down in a minute.
Who is it?
Your host, my dear. It's almost midnight, Nora. We're all going to get together down in the living room.
All right, Mr. Lloyd. I'll be right down.
Come with us before he kills you.
Where's Nora? Miss Manning.
I don't want to stay here.
Nora, what happened? That's Jonas Slides and his wife. They've been caretakers here for years. She's blind, you know.
I'm not going to stay here.
Well, Doctor, it looks like we have a real case of hysteria on our hands.
I think she's just a little upset. not hysterical.
Good evening.
Hello, my dear. This is my wife. These are our guests. Ruth Bridges, Dr. Trent. You know Watson Pritchard, of course. Nora Manning, and this is Lance Schroeder.
Get me out of here.
Now, what about the 10,000?
I don't care. He wants to kill me.
Who wants to kill you?
Mr. Lawrence.
May I have your attention, please? I think you all remember the bargain we made about staying all night. $10,000 apiece. If any of you don't survive, $50,000 will be divided amongst the rest of you. If I should die, you will be paid by my estate. When the door is locked from the outside by the caretakers, we'll all be forced to stay in this house until morning. If any of you decide not to stay, you must leave with the caretakers now. You won't have a chance to change your minds later, because there'll be no way to get out.
I don't want to stay.
Wait.
It isn't midnight yet. Who told them they could leave?
They never leave before midnight.
Well, they've gone now. I was going to ask you whether you wanted to stay or not, but it seems that the caretakers have made the decision for you. We're all locked in now.
But I don't want to stay.
And I'm sorry, my dear, but it's too late now.
Darling, haven't you had enough of the silly game? Get some cars up here for these people and let them go home. But pay them first.
This is your party, remember? In spite of my wife's faith in my ability to do the impossible, we will all have to stay in this house until 8 o'clock in the morning. But we have some party favors for you in these little coffins. This is my wife's idea. And I must say, I think it's rather dangerous. I suppose you all know how to use one of these things, but in case you don't, you just press down on this lever with your thumb and then pull the trigger. You see, they're loaded.
These are no good against the dead, only the living.
Doctor? Lance? Nora?
Go ahead, take it.
Miss Bridges? And here's yours, dear.
I don't need it.
It was your idea. Who knows, you may want to use it on me before this night is over.
Throw these guns away. They won't do you any good.
I agree with Pritchard on that point, although not for the same reason.
Dr. Trent, don't you approve of our little party favors?
Suppose Nora had had a gun when she mistook the blind woman for a ghost.
I don't think anyone else is going to walk around in total darkness.
Oh, I'm sure we're not going to go running around the house shooting each other, aren't you?
Who knows? Fear makes people do amazing things.
Mr. Pritchard, you said your sister-in-law killed a man and a woman here and cut them up? You said they found hands and feet, but they never found any heads. Would you like to see one of those heads? Would you all like to see one of those heads? Well then, just follow me.
Darling, I really don't need this.
Just go look in my suitcase. Just go look. But it was in there. A woman's head.
Nora, I think you're a little upset. Would you care for a sedative?
Get out! Get out, all of you! All of you, get out of here and leave me alone! Just get out of here!
You think it's all right to leave her by herself, Doctor?
I wish she'd taken the sedative.
Well, what do you suppose she thought she saw?
They're closing in on her.
Look, Doc, I think somebody ought to stay with her.
There could be 1 million people around her. But if they wanted her, they'd get her.
What if he's right?
Oh, he's too drunk to know what he's talking about.
I wonder. I'll join you in a minute.
Do you think it would do any good if you went in and talked to her?
Well, do you think there really was a head in her suitcase?
I don't know.
A thing like that would put me right over the edge.
Look, would you sort of stay up here, I mean, in case she needs help?
All right. I'll be in my room. Just call it.
Thanks.
Are you sure there are only 7 people in this house?
Positive. Except for the ghosts.
I don't believe in ghosts. Nor in frightening women. In Nora's case, it's gone far enough. Perhaps too far.
What do you suggest we do about it, Doctor?
Don't frighten her anymore.
Nora? 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 What do you know about this?
They've taken her. In a little while, she'll be one of them.
Where's Nora?
Where is she? It's too late. It's too late. You'll never find her again.
Pritchard, if you know where she is, you better tell me now.
She's gone. She's gone with them. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Let her down.
Nora?
She's dead, Mr. Loren. Your wife hanged herself.
Suicide.
card me here and needed just a little bit more dough. And our pizzas are done and just keeping warm. And while we keep them warm, I thought we'd take a minute here and we'd make some breadsticks. Now what I did was the exact same process with one minor difference. This time, instead of sprinkling our seasoning on top lightly, we put it into our actual dough. Now I'm just flattening this out. Nora Manning. You know, I gotta be honest. This girl is magnetic in her portrayal here. I mean, Carolyn Craig. What's not to say about her? I mean, she was beautiful. She had that girl next door about her, but she had, I mean, shit. So many people talk about the Scream Queen, this and that, but nobody really mentions her scream. In fact, that's who actually does the scream at the opening of our feature tonight. I've always been compelled by her. Unfortunately, she passed away in February of 1970, but one of her last films was Edgar Allan Poe at the Lookout. Definitely a cool movie, and if you can find the actual book to it, it's a great read. And that came out in 1965. Wait, what was it? What was that? I think it was 1967. Because it was just 2 years before she passed away. It was one of her last roles. And there you truly get to see this actress peak. She's fantastic at what she does. Now I just about got this rolled out. What I'm going to do is pull it up, flip it, and come across the backside. And you know, we've been watching tonight's feature, and the wife, Carol Omart. Wow. There's a lot to be said for her, and a legacy that we would be here for 3 days for me to get into the work that she has done. But, I mean, she was Mrs. Utah in 1947. She went on to play in some of the greatest horror movies in, what we would call now murder mysteries that you'd ever see. This woman had a career that spanned 3 decades, and she never left us disappointed. She could be the evilest bitch or the most fucking, that grandmotherly, make you want to go make fucking milk and cookies for dessert tonight kind of thing. Very talented and well-rounded actress. Now I'm going to keep molding this in, getting this going. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll out some little more flour, and we're going to crisscross these up. We're going to take 2 thin ones, going to roll them out like this. Yeah, we got to get some more flour down. We're going to roll them out, get them nice and long, right next to each other, and just crisscross them back and forth. Slather them with a little bit of oil or some butter. We're going to pop these suckers in the oven, and we will see you guys right here on the next break.
Nora? Nora? Nora?
about this?
They've taken her. In a little while, she'll be one of them.
Where's Norton? Where is she?
It's too late. It's too late. You'll never find her again.
Pritchard, if you know where she is, you better tell me now.
She's gone. She's gone with them. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Let her down. Nora?
She's dead, Mr. Loren. Your wife hanged herself.
Suicide.
Please hide me. Please hide me.
What's the matter?
Hide me. He tried to kill me. He grabbed me and choked me and put me in that room. And then he went away and left me.
Who?
He thought I was dead.
Who?
Mr. Lord.
Are you sure about this?
I don't know. It was dark, but it must have been him.
Has anybody seen you since he left you?
I heard some people in that room, but I went by and nobody saw me.
Mrs. Loren is dead.
But how?
Loren said she committed suicide, but I think somebody killed her.
Him?
I'm sure you've come to the same conclusion I have.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, let's all have a meeting, discuss what to do. The living room?
Okay, in a minute. I gotta go downstairs. Now, you lock yourself in here and don't let anybody know you're here. If he thinks you're dead, he won't come here. And I'll get back as soon as I can. You'll be all right. And if you have to, you use it.
So beautiful. So greedy. So cold. What are you doing in here?
Wait. Don't wait.
What do you mean coming in here?
I didn't want them to take her away.
You're drunk.
They will if you don't watch her.
You're drunk. All right, out with it, Bridget. Why did you come into this room?
I'm the only one who understands.
Understands what?
Your wife isn't there anymore. She's already joined them.
Look, Bridget, I've had enough of your spook talk. Get out, you sot, and don't come back into this room again.
Where's what's-her-name? Nora.
I didn't disturb her since I don't think this concerns her.
No, you're right.
Mr. Loren, isn't there some way we can get out of this house now?
No, none at all.
We could try breaking out.
The only door to the outside is made of steel. The bars of the windows are set in solid stone. We gotta stay.
I'm not afraid of your ghosts, Bridget. But I am afraid. When we came here a few hours ago, the only thing we had in common was the $10,000 we'd get. Now, however, we share something else. The death of Mrs. Loren. So far tonight, one of us was almost killed by a falling chandelier. One of us was mysteriously slugged. One of us has been driven to the brink of absolute hysteria, and one of us is dead. Were these accidents? Suicide? And we must stay here for 6 more hours.
6 hours? 6 of us. Time enough.
Who'll be next? How will it happen?
Let me ask you a question, Doctor. You were the first one to see my wife there. Did you also see anything that she could have climbed up on and then jumped?
No.
Did any of you? There was nothing. How then did she get up there so high?
Exactly, Mr. Loren. How? She couldn't have pulled herself up there. She couldn't have dropped from the ceiling. Do you think your wife killed herself?
No. She was murdered by one of you.
Charlie the horse was none too spry. His rider, Joe, was really dry. When low beneath the burning sky, they heard the famous Valentine cry.
Valentine, Valentine. Hey, get your cobia. Hey, get your Valentine. Hey, get your cold beer. Get your ice cold Valentine beer. When you want the flavor in beer today, you ask the man for Valentine beer. It's got the liveliest taste in town. Valentine's got it. Valentine beer.
You know, folks, if you're like me, you like your beer tall, frosty cold, and just brimming over with lip-smacking, honest-to-goodness flavor. That's Valentine beer for you. Flavors brewed in for the liveliest taste in town. Enjoy refreshing Valentine beer. You'll be so glad you did.
Friends, this is National Tavern Month, celebrating 300 years of friendly hospitality. A grand time to drop into your neighborhood tavern. Yes, stop in and you ask the man for Valentine beer, the liveliest taste in town, at the friendliest place in town, your favorite tavern.
Lucky Strike. First again with Tobacco Men. First again with Tobacco Men.
MFT, LSMFT.
Lucky Strike means fine tobacco. Yes, in a cigarette, it's the tobacco that counts. And Lucky Strike means fine tobacco.
So round, so firm, so fully packed, so free and easy on the draw.
So for your own real deep down smoking enjoyment, smoke that smoke of fine tobacco, Lucky Strike.
Well, as you can see, our pizzas are cooking. My, don't they look good. They're very close, but just not ready yet. So we're gonna leave these guys in here, and we're gonna cook them for another 15-20 minutes, and then we will throw our breadsticks in. And we'll see you right here on our next break on the Killer Kitchen.
One of us has been driven to the brink of absolute hysteria, and one of us is dead. Were these accidents? Suicide? And we must stay here for 6 more hours.
6 hours? 6 of us. Time enough.
Who'll be next? How will it happen?
Let me ask you a question, Doctor. You were the first one to see my wife there. Did you also see anything that she could have climbed up on and then jumped?
No.
Did any of you? There was nothing. How then did she get up there so high?
Exactly, Mr. Loren. How? She couldn't have pulled herself up there. She couldn't have dropped from the ceiling. Do you think your wife killed herself?
No. She was murdered by one of you.
Or you, Mr. Loren. To deliberately kill someone, you must have a reason.
We were all strangers to your wife. Only you had a motive for murder.
What husband hasn't at some time wanted to kill his wife? What husband hasn't had 1,000 opportunities to do it in such a way so that he'd never be suspected? I'm not such a fool as to hang my wife from a ceiling by a rope.
The fact remains that you, or one of us, murdered Mrs. Loren. And that's a matter for the police.
So how do we get the police?
That's my point. We can't until morning. What began as a silly party given by an eccentric has now involved us all in murder.
For once, Pritchard may be right. If another murder's in the works, let's stop it now.
Another murder.
Why not? Maybe one of us saw too much.
Why should even a millionaire want to give each of us $10,000 to spend one night in a gloomy old house? To see some ghosts, have a party? No.
Have you finished trying me, Doctor? And is the verdict guilty of murder?
Oh, this isn't getting us anywhere. Somebody killed Mrs. Loren, we know that. One of us is guilty and the rest of us are innocent, okay. Now, what we have to do for the next 6 hours is protect ourselves from each other.
Do you really think?
I don't think anything. I just know that I'm going to my room. And if anybody comes in, I'll shoot him. Or her.
And if we all stay in our rooms, we'll be safe. Because the innocent will have no reason to leave his room. And the guilty will admit his guilt if he or she does.
And we all have guns.
And we're all agreed?
Oh, I wish this night were over.
Rooms? Guns? I tell you, it doesn't make any difference. They aren't through with us yet. What's the use of saying goodnight?
Good night.
Good night, Doctor.
Nora, it's me, Lance. You okay? They've all gone to their rooms and locked themselves in.
Lance, I've been thinking. It was so dark down there. Maybe it wasn't Mr. Lorne.
It was him, all right. He tried to kill you, and he did kill his wife.
How can you be so sure?
She tried to warn me, asked me to help her. The doc thinks he's going to try and kill one of us. Now, there must be a way out of this place, and I'm going to find it and get the police before he does.
I'm going with you.
What if he finds out you're alive? No, Nora. You're safer here than any place else. Now just lock yourself in and keep quiet. If I find a way out, I'll come back and get you.
Do you know why delicious hot Quaker Oats is so good for so many families? Quaker Oats is rich in protein. A breakfast of delicious Quaker Oats with milk and sugar for a family of 4 provides as much total protein as 6 average eggs, as much total protein as 18 pieces of toast, and almost as much total protein as 18 strips of bacon. That's why your family gets that wonderful stick-to-the-ribs feeling with Quaker Oats, that wonderful feeling of well-being.
And what hot breakfast is as easy and fast to prepare as Quaker Oats? Just pour it into boiling salted water, and you have creamy, smooth, delicious oatmeal with only 1 minute of actual cooking. And here's a tip. Before and after serving Quaker Oats, keep the pan tightly covered, and it rinses clean instantly. No scouring, no bother.
So be sure your whole family gets the protein they need with a delicious hot breakfast of high-protein Quaker Oats or Mother's Oats, the same high-protein oatmeal.
I'm Flora the Florida orange, and I'm loaded with vitamin C. There's more health in a Florida orange. That's why everybody needs a lot of little. Oh, me. There's more juice in a Florida orange. Each day drink at least this much or more from the sweet, luscious Florida orange. Buy 'em now at your favorite store.
Right. There's a reason for squeezing fresh Florida oranges. Sweeter and more delicious. They give you extra juice, extra flavor, more for your money. And they're extra rich in vitamin C. That's why fresh Florida orange juice is better for them anytime they're thirsty. And nothing else tastes as good as the pure, delicious juice of fresh Florida oranges. By the bag or by the dozen, they're today's best fruit buy.
Buy 'em now at your favorite store. I'll be vitamin C in you.
Ellen Marshall, who plays Dr. Trent, is definitely one of those actors that can break the fourth wall without breaking the fourth wall. Several times throughout tonight's feature, I have noticed how he sort of looks at the camera, at us, the audience, just to let us know that he's in on the joke. He's watching what we're watching. And oftentimes, through just facial expressions, he's asking you, the audience, what do you think? Keep in mind, he's here to prove that ghosts and all this is just mass hysteria and none of it's real. Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I myself am a believer. Always have been, always will be. And I know that there are things in the corners of this earth that would turn a man's hair white to stare him in the face. Things in the corners and the shadows where we dread to look. And yet if we came across them face to face, they would drive a man insane. Even the toughest of men would be driven out of their minds by what lurks behind and in the corners where everybody's afraid to look. And that, my friends, is where you'll find me, Vincent Victoria. In fact, I find solace hiding in the shadows, out of the way. And after all, how else am I supposed to give you a surprise? And speaking of surprises, I think there might be 1 or 2 left in store this evening. So, while our breadsticks cook, got our pizza cups laid out, let's get back to the feature.
An admission of guilt, Doctor?
Certainly not. There's either somebody else in this house or one of us has left his room. Did you hear anything?
Organ music?
That, and someone walking.
You got yours? Ready?
You look downstairs, and I'll look up here.
Why not together?
There may be only minutes, seconds left of someone's life. Why waste time? It's almost over, darling. Every detail was perfect.
What's happening?
We've done it. A perfect crime. Beautiful.
Has she killed him?
Not yet. But she will.
Get me out of this hanging harness. What's taking that girl so long? What time is it?
At first, I couldn't get Nora to want to protect herself with a gun. But after you appeared at the window, everything began to work just as we had planned. You were wonderful. Just the touch that finally drove her into complete hysteria.
It'll be worth all of our planning, darling. Where's Nora now? What's happening?
On her way to the cellar. So scared she'll shoot the first thing that moves.
And Frederick?
On his way to the cellar, too.
David, are you sure none of them will suspect us?
Of what? An hysterical girl accidentally shoots somebody? Who would suspect that we planned it that way, that we drove her to it?
What about my suicide?
But just a ghost party gag. We'll claim it was a dummy since I'm the only one who touched you.
And the caretakers?
Well, they had no idea what they were really doing.
What about Nora? She's not stupid, you know.
Darling, believe me, everything we planned is working perfectly. Nora is sure Frederick murdered you. She thinks Frederick attacked her in the cellar, not me. And now Nora's almost out of her mind with fear. The heads, the music, you're hanging. I tell you, when Frederick walks in there, she'll shoot him.
It's taking too long. David, you ought to be there.
When you hear the shot, come down to the cellar.
David? David?
At last you've got it all. Everything I have. Even my life. But you're not going to live to enjoy it. Come with me, murderess. Come with me. Was indeed perfect. Only the victim is alive and the murderers are not. It's a pity you didn't know when you started your game of murder that I was playing too.
There must be some way to get in here.
Oh, it's right along here somewhere.
Lance! I've shot Mr. Loren. He's down in the wine cellar.
Alive?
I don't think so. It's him. He's alive.
You didn't shoot anyone, my dear. I loaded your gun with blanks. I can tell you all now. Trent and my wife were planning to kill me. They failed. Trent tried to throw me in the vat. My wife stumbled and fell. I'm ready for justice to decide if I'm innocent or guilty.
Now they're 9.
There'll be more, many more. They're coming for me now. And then they'll come for you.
And there you have it. Our pizza cups matched up with some homemade breadsticks. We'd like to thank everybody for accepting our invitation to a party known only at the House on Haunted Hill. Tonight's presentation I brought to you simply because we did try to do this back when the show first started 2.5 years ago. And after finishing, saving, and getting done, it turned around and looked and sounded and was a piece of shit. And even when I tried to fix it, it just was a piece of shit. So I decided it was time to revisit the House on Haunted Hill, give you some facts that we forgot about the last time around, and have some fun. And you know, speaking of facts we forgot last time around, one thing occurred to me. Now, when I was referring to William Castle and his gimmicks, for this movie in the theaters, what they would do is they had this black box up by the screen, okay? And at the right time in this, it would go to a brick wall, and the skeleton would come bursting out of the brick wall almost, like in a 3D effect, where it would come out and it would cruise across the top of the theater. And this went on for about 3 or 4 weeks. However, the kids being kids, not much has changed there. They'd bring their slingshots and they'd pebbles, rocks, ball bearings, just whatever, and they'd be flinging the shit up and it would break the skeleton, cause the mechanism. And for liability, they couldn't risk an accident because some stupid kids were busy being stupid kids. So they eventually stopped that gimmick. But while in effect, it became one of the highest selling points of the movie and why everybody was lining up to go see it. You've got to see this new effect. Same thing with The Tingler. In fact, there was several other movies, like 13 Ghosts, for instance, where you got these glasses, these 3D glasses that you would wear, and the only way you could see the ghosts was to put these glasses on and look through the red part of the glasses, and then if you wanted to see things normal, you had to look through the blue part. But it was a really cool idea. Another one of William Castle's. So, really, this is something I would love to see come back. It's just that I don't think modern audiences, kind of like back then, know how to behave themselves enough to leave shit alone and just enjoy the show. In fact, the more I think about it, so much has changed and so much has gone now that we had in the 50s and 60s that kids just don't have no more. And the biggest reason is because kids just can't fucking keep away from being dumb. Their parents don't do nothing about it. These kids are dumb enough to just think they can do whatever. And then you wonder why everything's fucking gone. And now you got these streaming services, so who even needs a theater anymore? It's depressing. But you know, not nearly as depressing as this thought. Our time here has actually come to a conclusion. This has been another week, and the beginning of our runoff to Halloween. So, as for me and mine, I'm going to sit back, I'm going to have a bite to eat, and I think I'm going to watch myself an episode of Monsters.